For joining us in this warm and sultry Florida morning. Thank you especially to Iris Tavernier. You say Tavernier, I say Tavernier. And for her musical talents. I just found out that I'm going to tell a little bit on you. She's a straight A student at Manatee School for the Arts. I thought she was college bound, but she's only in 7th grade. Yes. What tremendous talent. Thank you so much. She sings, she plays, she entrances us with her talent. I think you'll be better than Katy Perry in the long run. So thank you, Iris, for joining us. And without too much ado, we do like a little bit of ado. We further our ado from time to time. I would like to welcome you to the first, not the last, the first official annual Rocky Bluff Storytelling Festival. Yay! What could be better? You've heard little phrases like, in the beginning, once upon a time, long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, it was a dark and stormy night. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Congratulations! Today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. Anybody know those lines? They are the first lines of some very famous stories. I'm not sure if the stories you'll hear today will be famous. They may become famous in your mind, and you may tell them over and over. But what we love about stories is that they show us our common humanity. They get us out of our everyday world. They help us to know that you and I have something in common. We link our hearts, we discover new thoughts, we think new thoughts about people. We get to go far, far away and not even leave our living room. So I want to thank the Rocky Bluff Library for doing this and for launching us on this great adventure of telling stories. And I want to thank all of the sponsors, which I will do again later. But first of all, I want to thank our local government for sponsoring libraries and making all this a part of the budget, that we have some fiscal support for what is really important: literacy, helping our children, helping adults to learn and to grow. So to represent us, we have Ms. Priscilla Wizenant Trace, our Manatee County Commissioner from District 1. Ms. Trace, your family has lived here in Manatee County for what, 10, 15 years now?
I think we got here about 1882 or 85, give or take. And not only that, but right here, Ellington. This is Rocky Bluff. I'm talking about what I consider Ellington.
Okay. So they've been here for nearly, over 100 years. My math is not my strong suit. And I want to thank you because I have an earth box, courtesy of the Wizenant family inventing them. And we have Wizenant farms that have been around for a very long time and a rich history. You could say that you are rooted in Manatee County, couldn't we?
No, that's just too bad of a pun. No, I could not say that.
She would not say that. I would say that. Is there anything else we should know about you before we go on with the stories? Excuse me.
I heard you were 100 years old.
I am.
No, you're not. You couldn't be a day older, 22. And I heard you were an astronaut. A really fast astronaut, a Wizenant.
A Wizenant?
What can I say?
Excuse me, Toodles. This is supposed to be my part of the show.
I'm the star.
Well,
Oh, she told you.
we'll see about that. Okay, Miss Trace, thank you.
Thank y'all so much. I am your commissioner, but a lot of the people, there are some people here from the county, they'll tell you, I really don't know too much about politics. I do know about this area, though, and let me tell you, I love it, and I just want this area to be the best area it can be. I did grow up in Ellington. Doris always kind of gets mad because I am a friend of the Palmetto Library because that, no offense, I grew up in the Palmetto Library. But that was long before there was a library anywhere else except in Bradenton. I went to both the Bradenton Carnegie Library and the old Carnegie Library and the old Palmetto Library. To me, reading is the one thing everyone needs to do. And from the county's perspective, it's something that our neighborhood services know that when they have a problem with the reading, the libraries, they know they have a staunch ally in me. I heard this was storytelling, and they told me to tell a few stories. Well, let me tell you something. Like I said, this was Rocky Bluff, about where the old post office is sitting, or excuse me, the new post office, which I don't consider the Ellington post office. That's one we call that, that's the post office is nowhere. It's not really in Parrish, it's not really in Ellington, but about where that was sitting is what we used to be called Fuller Mine Earth. It was one of the best places to dig Fuller Earth is right where we're standing right now. One of the reasons they call it Rocky Bluff is this is one of the hardest grounds you've ever seen. Very little farming went on between here and through Canal Road where you see all the rocks up around Lincoln Park because there's a big rocky bluff that literally goes all the way to the bay. And there was a big Fuller's Earth. It used to be, but during World War I and World War II, there was a big mining operation, big dock out into the river where they actually mined the Fuller's Earth. And of course, getting back in the 1910s, when they were doing a lot of mining, there was a lot of dynamite sitting around. And supposedly my great uncle decided one day to see what would happen if you loaded a rowboat up with dynamite and set it off up against a railroad trestle.
Damn.
They say it was quite an explosion. And somehow back in those days it was called a prank. Now I'm sure don't tell him what would happen to him now. But there's a lot of Tyler stories, which is my great grandmother, or great whatever, through the Tylers is how we've been through here, and my other great grandfather got here in about 1910. So if y'all want to hear a lot of stories about the area, some I can't really publicly say. Probably shouldn't have said about Uncle Wes, but he's been dead quite a while, so I think the statue. So I think he'll be all right with that one. We just want to welcome y'all. This is a tremendous library. Tremendous friends. We need to make sure that all these ladies that are here in the red shirts and people that are the volunteers, to tell them thank you, because we have a huge problem in our education. I'm not a school board person. I'm a Manatee County person, though. So to me, it's not just what's happening in the county, it's what's happening in the school board. And I heard from Superintendent Green, gosh, probably 6-7 months ago, 89% of the kids, if they cannot read by the 3rd grade, they do not graduate from high school. That is a serious problem in our county. And then someone told me today, and I have no idea, it was not from Diane Green, that 70% of those kids will end up in jail. Well, we have a responsibility to me as citizens to make sure those kids can learn to read by the time they're 3rd grade. So I know I'm talking to the choir. I get that. But we're going to try to work on some things this summer. I know Anna Maria Oyster Bar, but if we come and ask you to volunteer some time to try to help some of these first and second graders who can't read, if you have it in your heart to do that, I would ask you to. Now, they asked me to read something official, so I kind of more unofficial. So here's the official, what we're up to. Yes, I can't see anymore to read. All right, library read down. Have fines on your library materials? I'm sure none of y'all do that. Wipe them away by reading. Now, until May 31st, all youth 17 and younger, all right, all you kids that forget where you put your books, you throw them under the thing, you have fines on your library accounts for overdue books, can have $5 removed for every hour they read. Reading materials can be books, magazines, or newspaper, either print or electronic. Come on, magazines count? All right. Pick up your reading log and start tracking. If you have library books you've forgotten to bring back to the library, bring them to us and we will waive your fine. The more you read, the more your fine goes down. So that's a very good program. So, because I understand that if you don't pay your fines, you don't get to go have books. But please return your books so everybody can use them. One of my great joys as a child was we used to go to my grandmother's, we'd walk to the library, and I have a big family, and we were all allowed, I think, 3 books. So every 2 weeks, we'd go to the library. There were 5 kids, so that was 15 books, and we swapped them around and read all summer long. And I have tremendous memories of that. And I've been everywhere in the world because of these books. You know things. Someone will say, well, how did you know that? I'm like, well, I read it. You know? Makes me an expert on just about everything, even though I haven't been there. So please, let's all get out and read. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trace. That's a story worth repeating, I think. Okay. What's that?
Kids have to read, kids.
That's right. And I also like to listen to stories. And Sandy Silver is with us today. And you may have just seen one of her friends, Toodles, who made an impromptu appearance. Toodles likes to be the star of the show, and she will be rejoining us shortly. Miss Silver is a professional storyteller, ventriloquist, you may have picked up on that, songstress, and she travels the country doing what she's going to do for you today. So I am excited that she's here with us now. Please welcome Miss Sandy Silver and friends.
Well, thank you. That's my language. I was one of those kids who couldn't read. I had a reading coach till I was in the 5th grade. Everything I do here today is from books. Saturday morning, rain is pouring. Well, it is Saturday, but it's not raining, but we can just pretend. My mommy worked late last night. She's in bed, snoring. Same old stuff on TV. Boring. So what if I can't go out and play? I know what I'll do today. I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it out, check it in. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it out, check it in. You know, Sleeping Beauty, she yawns and says, how come when I get out of bed? Madeline says, let her nap, jumps into my lap. Then Cat in the Hat says, hey, I'll go. Don't take him, shouts Pinocchio. Don't take that cat to your address. He always makes a mess, doesn't he? Oh, I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it out, check it in. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it out, check it in. Then the 7 dwarves, they began to shout, hey, take us with you, check us out. Cinderella gets her gown, Babar grabs his crown. Then Curious George leaps from the shelf. In walks Mother Goose herself. Out the door we danced and sang. The whole library rang. Oh, I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it out, check it in. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it out, check it in. Picking out a book, check it out, check it in. Picking out a book, check it out, check it in. Picking out a book, check it in. Check it out. Tom Chapin's song about the library. And I am, well, I'm a storyteller, I'm a ventriloquist, I'm a songstress, and that's about it. And I have a very short story, short poem from one of my favorite books, Shel Silverstein. And this one is called Fish Breath. Can you hear me in the back? I can hear you. Thanks. Fish Breath by Shel Silverstein. The jellyfish, sweeter than the other fish. He's in the Sandwich Islands looking for a peanut butter fish. The blowfish, oh, the blowfish. Blowing candles out excites that fish. He wants to go to birthday parties, but no one invites that fish. The redfish and the bluefish fish were looking for the right fish to help them make the stars and stripes, but they couldn't find a whitefish fish. The flying fish, wiser than the crying fish, fly above the fishermen so they won't be a frying fish. The tuna fish, her name is Juicy Lucy Fish. She says, when I'm hooked, don't get me cooked, don't turn me into sushi fish. There's muddy fish and messy fish and scare me half to deathy fish. I've got other stories about fishy fish, and I better do them before I run out of breathy fish. And I have a friend who's going to come out and do another story from this book. Hello yourself.
My name is Cutie Pie. Cutie Pie Crocodile.
Well, why don't you tell us something about yourself?
I'm a fashion diva.
You're a fashion diva? What makes you a fashion diva?
Well, I had curly pink hair.
Yeah.
I had blue eyes.
Very unusual for a reptile, yes.
I got a lovely dress.
Yes.
I got hot pink fingernails.
And hot pink toenails with a toe ring.
And I also have a lot of teeth.
You do have a lot of teeth.
And I take very good care of them because they have to last my whole life. And I'm going to live to be really, really, really old. Almost as old as you.
What did you have for breakfast?
Same as you.
Well, I don't think so. Do you have a story for us?
No.
Whoa, come on.
What do you mean, no?
I don't have a story.
Really?
Whoa.
Wait. I have a poem.
Oh, you have a poem.
What? You don't like poetry?
I do.
It's not my favorite.
Well, then you're reading the wrong poets.
Ah!
You mean if I don't like poetry that I'm reading, it doesn't mean I don't like poetry totally. It just means I don't like that poem?
Yes,
Well, that lets me off the hook. Who's your favorite poet?
Uncle Shelby.
Me too.
Uncle Shelby?
Yeah, Shel Silverstein.
Yeah, I like him too.
Yeah.
So you have a little Shel Silverstein story for us?
Oh, I know, certainly do. It's called The Crocodile's Toothache. The crocodile went to the dentist and sat down in the chair.
And the dentist came in and said, "Well, madam, how badly does it hurt and where?"
Oh, she cried, you are hurting me so. Put down your pliers and let me go.
But the dentist just laughed.
She opened her jaws so wide, so wide, that the dentist,
He climbed inside. Oh, he laughed. "Isn't this fun?" And he began pulling her teeth out one by one.
oh dear, she cried, please stop. You are hurting me so. Put down your pliers and let me go.
But the dentist just laughed. "I still have 12 more to go." Oops. I pulled the wrong tooth, I confess. But what's one more crocodile tooth, more or less?
And suddenly, the crocodile's jaws went snap. And the dentist disappeared right off the map.
And where he went was anyone's guess.
To the north, or the south, or the east, or the west.
He didn't leave a forwarding address.
But what's one more dentist, more or less? The end.
I have one more puppet to come out for this set. I'll be doing another set at 12 o'clock with different song, different puppets.
I thought I was the star.
Yes,
Well,
you are.
twinkle, 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 twinkle.
Oh my God.
Well, what do you think? Well, hello, Mr. Book. Well, hello, everybody. I really want to say hello to Miss Gloria Solino. She's the force behind this festival. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm new to Florida, and I'm just very grateful that my name got passed around and I got to come here. That's right. Well, Mr. Book, where do you live? I live on a shelf at the library. So why did you leave your nice shelf to come out here? Well, I wanted to remind everybody, take good care of your books. Don't bend the pages. Don't scribble in us. Don't throw us. Don't throw us under the bed or under the couch. Don't throw us at your brother or your sister. Don't throw us at the wall. We have to take really good care of all our books. That's right. So this is Mr. Book saying, keep reading. Cha-cha-cha. And I was the kid who couldn't read. My first grade teacher, Mrs. Hartman, volunteered to be my reading coach. I don't know if I just wasn't enchanted with Dick and Jane. They were no fun. But I had a lot of trouble learning to read, and I really wasn't a reader till I was in the 5th, 6th grade, and I'm still a slow reader, but I read all the time. It's just the way I read. So I wanted to mention that. And I learned to be a ventriloquist from a library book. From a library book. I was 55 years old. I had a dream. I just started telling stories. I had a dream, and Shari Lewis and Lamb Chop were in the dream. They weren't the stars, they were in the periphery. And when I woke up, I went, oh my gosh, how do you learn to do that? And I didn't have a computer 16 years ago. I don't have kids, nobody to teach me. So what did I do? I went to the library. If you're not already a card-carrying friend of the library, consider it. And I'll see you at noon. Thank you.
Down.
Thank you so much for letting me come here today. This is just so nice. My memories of the library, well, started off not very good because I was raised in Southern California. Ventura, California, yeah. Ventura, yeah. Oh, that's where I'm from, sister. OJAI. Anyway, raised out there, and I used to go to the Ojai Library all the time, and Miss Renshaw would always go, shh, 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 because I was talking all the time in the library. Yeah, be quiet. And you know, kind of like the book you brought out, in a way, I didn't treat I held a book hostage. My Cowboy Sam book, I probably owe $20,000 on that. Probably $20,000 in fines on that. But anyway, everything that I've ever have been able to do in life, I learned through books and stuff and my imagination, and that's how I got to write Dry Creek. And it was really, I'm not going to talk much about that, but 3 years ago, what it is, first off, it's a fictional town that I came up with. I'm the creator of that. And it's like Little House on the Prairie. Who remembers Little House on the Prairie? Yeah. Well, the nice thing that we did is we kind of made it with Florida and from Parrish, and we came up with a town called Dry Creek. And it really, the stories, the history that we live in here, right here. Did you know the first hoofed animals came from Florida? Way before the West. You always, you know, all Hollywood always talks about the Westerns, and I grew up with the Westerns, you know. Matt Dillon, Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, all that. I grew up with it. You got Gunsmoke, you betcha. But Ponce de Leon brought them ashore, buffalo, cattle, horses, and brought them right up through until they got ran off the shore and everything by the Indians, you know, which the Seminoles, you bet. And that's how we have our horses today. And then they migrated, and they brought them on into Texas and everything in the West. But that's really where it started at, isn't that something? Would you like to hear a little poem? Riding my horse with spurs that shine, the rhythm of his hoofs just keeping time. My faithful blue heeler dog is just one step behind. I'm a million miles away from a world that's left me and my kind behind. I look like a cowboy. I dress the part in my Stetson hat and my high-heeled boots that adorn my feet. I look like a cowboy. Just don't look at my riding because I bounce a lot in my seat. Over yonder comes a cowboy, a spitting image of me. Even has a Montana crease. He yells as he rides by, "Hey, pard! Better tighten down your saddle skirt." I say, "Thanks, but no thanks. You're a little too late," as I look up from the ground. Oh, I got a rule. See, this works good for a performer. By the way, this lady is one of the best I've seen. I mean to tell you, she's pro. See, if you had a cowboy hat, take a cowboy hat, because you can go like this, see, and they'll clap for you. Now, I'm going to keep this audience for about another 2 minutes, and they're going to turn on me. But that's what you do, see? Now watch. Let's see. Let's see if you can do it. Ready? You got to clap when I take my hat off. Hello. And when I put it back on, you got to stop. Okay. You know, I have a little girl that looks kind of like you, and her name is Holly. The sad thing about it is I kept telling Holly, I said, "Well, you quit growing. So, they start out small like this. And all of a sudden, they get a little bigger like this, and they get a little bigger. And then one day, she called me on the phone. See, we used to have rotary dial. Remember? Remember that? Before cell phones. There were phones before cell phones. Yeah, there was. And they had cords on them. I remember we used to sit there and mess with the cords, and everything, and you could only get so far because of the cord and everything. Anyway, she called me and says, Dad, I've met this special guy, and I'm going to get married. I said, no, you're my little girl. You're not supposed to grow up. Anyway, she got married, but I wrote a poem for her. How many of you dads have ever given away a little girl? By marriage, for heaven's sakes. Okay, it's a sad. Now you women, you're laughing, but see, us guys don't have much to say about it. You guys have to have the pink or the blue tablecloth. What kind of food we're going to have, what kind of music we're going to have, and us dads just sit back with our wallets and go, how much is this going to cost? Yeah, cha-ching. I like this guy. You're right. So that's where we get to, So I had to do something special, because here's something. My mom always taught me that if you're down about something or you're happy about something, write it down. Write it down. Now, if you're really unhappy, I remember I got my sister here from Ohio, Jane, and I remember when they used to tease me and stuff, and I'd get really mad at them and stuff like that, and I would go in my room and I'd pout. And then I'd go in there, and my mom says, whenever something happens at school or something, go write it down. Okay, my sister Jane was mean to me, and she took my cowboy hat. Then I go back to it, and I read it. My sister Jane was mean to me, and she took my cowboy hat. It gets kind of funny then, doesn't it? See what I mean? So write it down. So whenever I feel bad about something or I'm happy about it, I put it in poem, like my mom taught me. And here's the poem that I wrote for Holly. She glides over the dance floor in her white Battenberg lace. I'm a little uneasy in this rented tuxedo, but I sure am proud. You can see it written all over my face. Today's a big day. I give away my little girl. She up and turned into a woman. Just watch her twirl. She reminds me of my mama not too many years ago. Her new husband is sure enough a nice fella. After all, he's not just your regular Joe. I can still see her now hobbling around in her mom's old high heels. When she'd trip and fall in her dragon purse, we'd try not to make it a big deal. Let Dad show you a fancy step. If you ever need me, I'll be right there, you can bet. These are tears of joy. I'm not sad. It's just not every day that a dad gives away his little girl. I know I don't look like it, and I know I look about 21, 22. I got the glasses on so I can look like David Letterman.
You should be doing Letterman.
I got it, don't I? But guess what? I know you're not going to believe this. I am a grandfather. Now, I told you this audience was going to turn on me. It took you a little longer, though. That's good. We're going to get along just fine. Yeah. So anyway, I felt bad about it. I'm getting old. Got to suck it in now. And everything, I'm getting old. What did I do? I went and wrote something out. I wrote it out. I'm getting old. All the positive things about getting older. I'm smarter now, well, in some ways, and stuff, and I wrote that out. So I wrote a poem about my grandfather. Grampies are special. They go by many names, like Papa, Pop, Papa, and of course, Granddad. They all smell like a mixture of Bengay and Old Spice. They give you loose change with specks of lint from their pockets and buy you candy and sodas and things and let you get as dirty as you want when your mom's not around. Grampies are special. They give you Dutch rubs, and they check your chin for peach fuzz, and they tease you about, who's your girlfriend? and they let you back up their pickup truck, sitting right there in the seat. Grampies are special. They've been through it all. They've lived years and years. The problem is, they're just not with us very long. Oh, man. You know, I'm going to get the trick ropes out in a minute. I was fortunate enough, and Priscilla, I don't think that you know, and a lot of you kind of know my background from California. Probably good because I'd be arrested and I'd have to leave here. They'd take me away, you know. But no, I'm just joking about that, I think. But I started out doing an act on Will Rogers. And Will Rogers was a great humorist that was back in the 1930s. And he was rated the #2 movie star over Shirley Temple. And in the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., there's even a statue. And he was a real cowboy. And his word was his bond. Always tell the truth. Stay healthy. You know, be good to your mom and dad. All the things, that's what Will taught me when I was growing up. And I was fortunate enough to learn the trick rope from Will Rogers Jr., who lived in Tubac, Arizona. And I had called, I was doing a one-man Will Rogers stage show out in California. And I got together with him to learn about his dad. And I met him at the museum there in Santa Monica at his dad's old house. And he walked me through. What a fascinating, and if you ever have a chance, kids, read. Or even go on the computer and look up Will Rogers. You'll be fascinated by him. But I'll bring those out in just a second. How many people love horses? Oh, I love horses. I love horses. There's something that's kind of sad, and this got me. Oh, you fell off of one? I did too. Fell on my head right there.
I didn't fall off here.
You fell off there. I fell off everywhere. But anyway, I was reading in the paper here a while back that there's wild horses. Did you know that's still in America? Yeah. There's wild horses. Utah has some. Even Arizona has some wild horses. Yeah, and Buffalo, New York. Yeah. But the thing about it is, they're coming in and trapping the horses, and there's so many wild horses that they're starting to, you know what I'm saying. Well, there's a group, thank goodness, that's saving them, okay? But what did I do when I kind of got depressed because I love horses? I wrote a thing about the horses, the wild horses. Now, imagine we're out in Utah right now, okay? That's what books will do, in imagination and reading. We're out in Utah right now. Listen, you got to be quiet, and let's be the wind right now. The wind, this is a prairie now, and there's no cars out there. This is the wind blowing. Ready? Come on now. Up above the timberline, where the pine trees didn't quite make the climb, granite crevices drink up the melting snow. And at the base of the jagged cliffs, it turns into a stream that flows, and then it makes its way on down there to the meadows down below. There, just grazing, is one of the last herds of wild horses in the West. Thank goodness there's still some wild horses left. They running free, manes and tails seem to dance, and they intertwine up in the midair, and their nostrils flare, breathing in life's precious air. Darkness falls on the meadows where the wild horses run and live and play. But come tomorrow morning, I just pray those wild horses will be there for yet another day. Okay, let me walk backstage for a second. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Now, I'm a professional rope spinner. Don't try this at home. This is an artiste. This is my paintbrush right here. Now, I can outshout that traffic. I can tell you that right now. Now, I'll show you a couple of tricks here. Ready? Just wanted to make sure you're still there. Okay. Butterfly. Okay. This is a drunk butterfly. And what happens when you're drunk and you're driving? That's a dead butterfly. Now, what I'm going to do now is how many people, first off, I don't think you got the confidence in me, young man, thinking I'm a grandfather now after I told the truth, that I'm young enough to jump in and out of the truck.
He does every move.
He doesn't think I can jump in and
Yes,
out.
he can every move.
You believe I can?
Yes,
I believe you.
Good.
I believe you.
Cookie, we have an ambulance on standby for dinner, right? Okay. Here goes. You watching?
I can't see.
Cookie's staying right over here. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
I told you I could do it.
I did think that was, I thought it was going to be awesome.
Okay, we'll try one more time. Right, please. That scared me. We got a problem. I don't know how to get out.
Put it down. Put it down. Put it down.
Put it down, then step out.
Step out.
Step out.
Hey!
I'm gonna do one more because my time's up, but you guys have been so nice. Let's hand it to everybody to put this together for the library.
That's the only way you can get out of the boat.
Okay, I'm gonna try and get all 60 feet out of this rope. Here's my untangle. Okay, think I can? Now here's where I need your help.
Fly.
I need your help. No, she doesn't need to come up. No. This is like my wife, you know. I don't
Oh!
want anybody knowing with you. I don't want any. Okay. I'm going to try to just get this 60 feet out. But as you see this rope starting to disappear in my hand, you guys have to clap and help me get it out, okay? Let's go with me.
I'm nervous.
No kidding. No kidding. I don't know what he's trying to do.
Hey, we're going to do it.
Don't hit your
One more. You should end with that when you're on top. But one more. You ever heard of the Texas skip?
Yeah.
This is where you jump through it. And I honestly haven't done this trick in a long time. So
There you have.
huh?
There you go.
No, you're right.
There you go.
I'm just building it up like it's really hard, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can get it. You know, Will Rogers said the rope's all right for swinging as long as it's not around your neck. Here we go. That's good enough. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Our very own local cowboy, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Les McDowell. Thank you, Mr. McDowell. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule, so we would like to give you the opportunity to listen to Miss Iris Taverny again, who will regale you with her ukulele. If you would also like to take advantage and look around at some of the at Sparky the Clown and some of the other happenings around here, there are some food booths, and there's face painting and balloon animals and all sorts of fun things. So our next storyteller will be Mr. D.M. Jack, and he will be here at 11:05. So please be back by then, okay? Thank you. Our next storyteller is Mr. D.M. David. I'm not sure what the M is for. David Michael, I was going to say maestro or master storyteller. He is, again, I love it when we discover local talent. He is professional marketing, musician, and author of children's books. Guess what? I came to the library today hoping to hear some really good stories. And look, all I've got is books in my hand. So not only can we hear the stories, but you can take some home and read them too. Can someone help me out here? Who could you hold a book for me? Okay. And here is one of Mr. Mark's books, and it's called Lila's Dream. Here's another one called, would you hold that for me? The Treehouse Adventure by D.M. Jack, and The Furnace Room by Mr. D.M. Jack. And I want to tell you that Mr. Jack did not always know how to read well, or to write well, or to spell well. As a matter of fact, he suffered greatly from dyslexia. Dyslexia. Okay? One of those things where you get your words a little twisted up. But I don't want to tell you too much about that because he is going to tell you. And because he's got a story to tell. And straight from River Wilderness to our library, to your ears, Mr. D.M. Jack. Yay! Thank you. Here you are, sir.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everybody. How you doing? It's great to be here today. I'm pretty new to this area. I moved down here about a year ago from Connecticut. And thank God, because they had 4 nor'easters in March. And it was really good timing, to say the least. I'm here because I want to be a part of the community, and I am a local author. And I also really believe in reading and how important reading is. And as she said before, I had some real issues as a kid growing up. And I had a 2nd grade reading level in 5th grade, which is pretty terrible. I don't know if you heard the commissioner when she got up here, but she said that in a situation like that, 70% of kids can end up in jail. I was really lucky because, fortunately, my parents had the resources to send me to a very special school, and back then they didn't really identify these kinds of things very well, dyslexia, reading, things like that. So what happened was I got put through 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and then in 5th grade, I had a teacher who just saw something. He saw a good kid that was kind of quiet, that didn't really disturb anybody, but he just wasn't getting it. And fortunately, he was able to discover that I had this problem. And I went on to high school. The next few years were very difficult, but I worked on it, and I found a really wonderful high school teacher that took me under his wing. He saw something in me that I did not see in myself. And he took me under his wing, and he was a very tough teacher, but he helped me, and I ended up graduating 7th in my class in high school. Yeah. So it can be done, and the message I'm trying to get through today is that, reading is very, very important, and that no matter what your situation is or how you start out in life, you can overcome it. And I went on to minor in English, actually, in college. And I went on to become a professional drummer. I toured all over the U.S., parts of Europe. I put out records. I was, just enjoying life, I guess you could say. And then, of course, I had my children, and I had to settle down, and I had to stop traveling, and I got into the advertising and media world. And as it turned out, the dyslexia that I had actually worked in my benefit. I'm not sure if anybody here is aware that although dyslexia can be very difficult, if you learn how to work with it, it actually can work in your favor in some situations. And in the business world, what dyslexia did for me was it allowed me to see things differently than everybody else. So if we were talking about working on a strategy or a business development strategy, everybody was looking at it one way, and I was looking at it completely differently. They were all looking at, picture a building with a big front entrance. Everybody was looking at, how do we get into the building through the front entrance? And I was saying, well, why don't we go around the back and go through the door down there? Or why don't we climb into the chimney and come down that way? So it's just a different way of thinking. And believe it or not, some of the most successful CEOs in the United States are dyslexic. I'm sure a lot of people find that surprising, but that is very true. So anyway, after 34 years of being in the advertising and media industry, I decided that I wanted to be a writer and use all of the skill sets that I had generated over the years. But I wanted it to be a mission. I didn't want to just write kids' books for the sake of writing kids' books. I wanted to inspire reading, and I wanted to do it in a way that harkened back to a simpler time before video games and the internet, where imagination reigned. And so that was my whole mission, was to come up with books and stories that were sort of bigger than life, where you use your imagination and where everything happened in your backyard. Everything happened in your house. No video games, no smartphones, none of that. Just adventure, use your imagination, have a good time. And I also wanted to give back a little bit. So my books, although they're sold on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, they're also sold on a platform called BookBaby. And being a publisher on Amazon is, Amazon likes to make money. So they pretty much take most of the profits. But BookBaby does not. When you buy a book on BookBaby, because I can keep more of the profits, I can give away part of those profits. And so I have a partnership with the Barbara Bush Foundation in Texas for family literacy, and 5% of any profits that I make on any of my books bought on BookBaby will go back to the Barbara Bush Foundation for family literacy. And so that's sort of my way of giving back. I have my notes here. I gotta have my notes. So anyway, that's sort of my background, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit about each one of those books, and then I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened to me as a kid, because the bottom line is that everybody in this room can tell a story. You don't have to be me. You don't have to be like a professional storyteller. You don't have to be an author that makes a lot of money or whatever. Anybody can tell a story. It just needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Really, it's how simple it is. So the furnace room, which I don't know what happened to the book. So this. Oh, okay, here they are. Okay. This book here. This actually was based on. It's a brother and sister character, and it was based on actually real stuff that happened in my life when I was a kid. You don't have basements down here in Florida, but up north, where I came from in Connecticut, there's basements. And basements are never, they're always creepy, And back then, we didn't have a finished basement. We had a very cold, clammy basement where all of our toys were, and we played down there. And I had two sisters. And it was a big basement. It went around the corner. And my mother always told us the last one up had to turn off the light. No one wanted to be the last one up, because this light was this little bulb that was off in the middle of the basement, and it had a string, and when you turned it off, everything went black, and you had to run up the stairs. And right around the corner was this green door with this creepy latch, and sometimes the latch would open up without you doing anything to it. And there was a little hallway that went down, and there was a furnace back there. And every time you were playing with your toys, and you were kind of whistling past the graveyard, you're trying to have a good time, and you're playing with your toys, all of a sudden you'd hear a click, and the furnace would go on. It would really scare me every time. So, of course, my sister Lisa, she was just a little bit younger than I. She didn't want to deal with this either. So every time we played in the basement, she would run up the stairs ahead of me. And I was left having to turn that light off. And that's how the story of the furnace room was born. This is a story about overcoming your fear and through the love of your pet. So I'm not going to give away what the story is, but this is the first book I wrote. I'm very proud of it. My illustrator, Chris Brown, he's well renowned in the United States as an illustrator. He does magazine covers, newspapers, and he did an incredible job illustrating this book. And this book, this was actually supported and recommended by Catherine Stark, who is an urban literary specialist. And what she does is she goes into failing schools around the United States and in a very short period of time brings them back up to standard. So this is a woman who I really, truly admire. She goes into very difficult school districts and has helped countless kids. And Catherine also, she put out a book called Tackle Reading, which is sponsored by the NFL. And Tackle Reading is about people with reading problems and dyslexia who are famous football players, authors. And I was one of the featured authors in Tackle Reading, and where we all talk about how we overcame these problems. So if you ever go on Amazon and you want to find a really cool book that's kind of crowdsourced, a lot of different authors writing short stories about how they overcame their reading issues, it's called Tackle Reading. And Catherine Stark, who endorsed my book, was the one who published that. My second book, The Treehouse Adventure, is the same brother and sister character. And this one is kind of funny because if you're on summer vacation, I don't know, sometimes you get bored, right? There's nothing to do. And usually when you're bored, you don't do good things. So this is about boredom and what happens when you do something that you're told you're not supposed to do. So I guess the story is about admitting your mistakes and saying you're sorry, is what it comes down to, and listening to your elders. That's this book. And it's kind of a fun romp. It's an adventure. So a little bit different than a furnace room.
Thank you very much. What an adventure. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I almost liked bathing in that glacier, that mountain stream. It felt good in one way because it's a little bit Florida out here right now, isn't it? Well, I am about ready. Thank you again. And are your books available back there? Okay, so we can visit your tent if you want to hear more or learn about the stories that are written just for children. Yes, you may buy his books here. Yes, I think they're probably available at the library too. So I am pleased now to introduce to you Ms. Tamara Green. She is going to take you someplace too. I don't know whether it'll be a cold place, a warm place, but I think she's going to tickle your funny bone a little bit. And I hear that one of the places she takes you on uses a roller coaster to get there. Is that correct? Maybe not. Did you bring your imagination? Okay, are you ready to find out things you never knew before? Yes? Are you ready to laugh? Yes. Are you ready to laugh? I'm looking at you, sir. Yes, okay, he's ready. They're ready. Miss Tamara Green, who is a professional storyteller. What else can I say about you that they don't know?
I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee, home of the blues.
Yeah.
All right. And the pinks and the greens and the purples.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Without further ado, thank you, Miss Tamara Green. Take it away.
Okay, and if you don't mind, I would like to use the stand-up mic.
Yes, ma'am. May I help you move it somewhere?
Oh, right in front of me, and all I need is this.
All right. Here we go. Get ready.
Is it on? Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is still morning time, so
It is.
It's morning. I am storyteller Tamara Green, and I am here at the Ellington, Florida, Rocky Bluff Library this morning. I am so glad to be here. Now, I know a lot of people are wondering, what is storytelling and who are these storytellers? What is this all about? Well, I can tell you something about it. Storytelling is one of the oldest artistic forms of communication in the world. There were storytellers in Russia, storytelling in China, storytellers in Japan, storytellers in Australia, storytellers in Africa. There are storytellers all over the world, and it's thousands of years old. When men were painting pictures on cave walls, there were others who were pantomiming just how they took their spears and thrust them into the air to capture their food for the day. And then those storytellers brought that food back to the village, and they lit a fire, and everyone sat around the fire, and they ate, and they told the story of how they captured that animal. Even in the Jewish folklore, we have David with maybe a slingshot, and he did this, and he hit old Goliath right here in the forehead, and he went down dead. So everybody has stories to tell, and those stories last forever and forever and forever. Now, I love to tell tall tales, teeny-weeny tales. I tell biblical stories. I tell African stories. I tell something called city-fied urban tales. Stories about living in the neighborhood, stories about respect, and stories about sharing. So I love to tell all kinds of stories. I'm going to start off today with a story from Africa. In case you didn't know it, Africa is made like this. Sort of like a big pork chop. It has a big head and a small bottom. And it is divided into two huge chunks, Northern Africa and Southern Sahara Africa. Well, in Southern Africa alone, there are over 800 different languages and sub-languages. And that means that there are just that many more songs and dances and styles of dress and proverbs and, of course, stories. There was a man by the name of John Steptoe who was looking for a story that nobody had ever heard before. And so he traveled to Southern Africa, and he went to a village. And when he got to that village, he saw that it was in ruins. So he asked another village what had happened over there. And they told him the story of Mufaro and his beautiful daughters. A long time ago, in a certain place in Africa, a small village lay across a river, and about half day's journey from a city where a great king lived. A man by the name of Mufaro had two daughters called Minyora and Nyasha. And everyone agreed that Minyora and Nyasha were very, very beautiful. One day, said Minyora, I will be queen, and you will be a servant in the queen's household. If that should come to pass, said Nyasha, I would be very pleased to be a servant in the queen's household. But why do you say such things? You are strong and clever and beautiful. Why are you so unhappy? Because I am sure that father loves you best. But when I am queen, everyone will see that your silly kindness is only weakness. Nyasha was sad to hear her sister say such things, but she ignored her sister's words and went about her chores, for she had a small plot of land on which she grew yams, millet, and sunflower seeds. She always sang as she worked, and some said that it was her singing that made her crops more bountiful than others. One day, as she was tending her garden, she noticed a small garden snake resting beneath a yam vine. Oh, little Nyoka, you are welcome here. And from that time on, Nyoka was always by Nyasha's side. Some said she sang even sweeter when he was around. You will
You will grow and grow and grow. You will grow. Why, early one morning, a messenger appeared from the city. For the great king wanted a wife. The most beautiful and worthy daughters of the land are asked to appear before the king, and he shall choose one to be queen. Oh, Mufaro, he was so excited. He called Minyora and Nyasha to him. Oh, my daughters, why, it would be such an honor if either one of you were chosen to be the queen. Now, prepare yourselves, and I will gather together all of our friends for a wedding party. But my father, said Minyora in her sweetest voice, why, it would be such a pity if either one of us had to leave you, and I am sure that little Nyasha here would just grieve to death if she were parted from you. I am strong. Send me to the city, and let Nyasha stay here with you. No, Minyora. Both of you must go. Now that night, when everyone was asleep, Minyora left the village. And in her greed to be the first one to appear before the king, she almost stumbled upon a small boy standing in the pathway. Ma'am, give me something to eat. I am so hungry. Ma'am, please, can you give me something to eat? I am so hungry. Out of my way, boy. I only have enough for myself. And she hurried on toward the city. Now, after she had traveled for what seemed to be a great distance, she came upon a small clearing. And there, silhouetted against the moonlight, she came upon an old woman seated on a large stone. I will give you some advice, Minyora. When you get to the place where the two paths cross, you will come upon a grove of trees. They will laugh at you. You must not laugh in return. Later, you will see a man with his head tucked under his arms. You must be polite to him. How dare you to advise your future queen? Out of my way, you old ugly woman. And Minyora, she scolded the old woman. But just as the old woman had foretold, she did come upon a grove of towering trees. But Minyora looked up at the trees and laughed aloud. I laugh at you, trees. I laugh at you, trees. It was not yet dawn before she heard the sound of rushing water. The river must be up ahead, she said to herself. The great city is just on the other side. But there, at the top of the rise, she saw a man with his head tucked under his arms. Minyora ran past him without speaking. A queen? She only acknowledges those who please her. I will be queen, she chanted to herself. I will be queen. And she hurried on toward the city. Now, Nyasha woke at the first light of dawn as she put on her finest garments. And she thought, beyond this day, her life might be changed forever. But I would really rather stay here, said Nyasha. I would really stay here. I want to stay here and to be with Father. And never to sing to Nyoka again? But her thoughts were interrupted when loud shouts and commotion were discovered. Minyora, she was missing. But when they saw her footprints on the pathway to the city, they decided to go on as planned. The wedding party was deep into the forest. When Nyasha noticed a small boy standing to the side of the path, she gave him a yam, and he smiled and disappeared as suddenly as he had come.
Then an old woman pointed the way to the city. Nyasha thanked her and gave her a small pouch filled with sunflower seeds. The sun was high in the sky when the wedding party approached the grove of towering trees, and their uppermost branches seemed to bow down to Nyasha as she passed beneath them. At last, someone announced that they had reached their destination. Nyasha topped the hill and called back to her father, "Oh, my father, a great spirit must stand guard here. Look at what lies ahead of us. Well, I have never in all of my life seen anything so beautiful." Arm in arm, Nyasha and her father descended the hill, crossed the river, and approached the city gates. And just as they were about to enter through the great doors, the air was rent with a loud scream. As Minyora ran wildly from a chamber at the center of the enclosure. "Oh, my father, do not go there. My sister, don't go. Do not go there. There's a great monster there. It had 4 or 5 heads. It was all I could do to escape alive. My sister, do not go. Father, do not let her go there." He said that I displeased him and that he knew all of my faults. "My sister, do not go." Nyasha was frightened to see her sister so upset, but she left Minyora with her father as she bravely approached the chamber door and opened it. And to her surprise, on the stool of the great chief was the little garden snake, Nyoka. "I am sorry, Nyoka, but why are you here?" "I am the king. I am the king." And before her very eyes, that little garden snake changed its shape. "I am the king. I am also the small boy with whom you shared a yam in the forest. And I am the old woman to whom you made a gift of sunflower seeds. But you know me best as Nyoka. And I know you as the most beautiful and worthy daughters in all of the land. And it would make me very pleased if you would be my wife." And so it was. A long, long, long time ago, Nyasha agreed to be married. And Mufaro proclaimed to all who knew him that he was the most blessed father in all of the land. For he had two most beautiful and worthy daughters, Nyasha, the queen, and Minyora, a servant in the queen's household. Once, before the beginning of time, there was really one huge green mountain. And on the summit of that mountain lived tall red tree who bore much fruit. And in the dry, dusty plains lived wide gray tree who bore no fruit at all. Now, Anansi, the trickster spider, lived in the branches of wide gray tree, but he did nothing all day long except for sleep and make fun of wide gray tree because she bore no fruit. Now, Python and Baboon could see that wide gray tree was sad, but not Anansi. All Anansi cared about was himself. One day, a storm came over the land and over the sea, and lightning struck. Lightning struck the very branch in which Anansi made his home, and that branch went spiraling down, 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 down to the ground. And that branch fell on Anansi's back. Help! cried Anansi the spider. Help! Somebody help! Well, all of the animals ignored Anansi. But because she had compassion, Wide Gray Tree scooped up Anansi and placed him on the 4th limb from her largest bough. But before she picked Anansi up, she made Anansi promise that he would do everything in his power to try to help Wide Gray Tree figure out how she could bear fruit. And of course, Anansi, oh, he promised with all of his heart that he would do all he could to help Wide Gray Tree figure out how she could bear fruit. Well, Anansi said, I don't know why she believed me. When Anansi got in his most comfortable position, he forgot all about his promise. He laughed at Wide Gray Tree. He laughed so hard until he fell again. Help! cried Anansi. Help! I'm falling again! Well, this time, Wide Gray Tree just folded her arms, closed her eyes, and went to sleep. Well, Python and Baboon came walking by, and they laughed at Anansi. They even made up a little song about it. You got what you deserve. Oh, my word, you got what you deserve. Oh, my word, you got what you deserve. Oh, my word, oh, my word. Help! cried Anansi. Help! But none of the other animals would help Anansi. I'm falling, I really can't get up. Help! Oh, nobody wanted to help Anansi at that time because he had been so bad. Well, after a while, Zebra came walking by. Hey, Anansi, I heard you crying. I thought I might come by to see if there was anything I could do to help you. Well, friend, said Anansi, if you would help me get back up there in that tree, I'll help you someday. Well, everybody knew what Zebra wanted. And everybody knew that what Zebra wanted, Anansi couldn't possibly help him. See, Zebra wanted to have 2 colors. That's right. He wanted to have 2 colors. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to tell y'all. I forgot to tell you that at the beginning of the world, Zebra was all white with a big old horn stuck in the middle of his face. That's right. He had this big horn stuck in the middle of his face. He was already beautiful, but he just wasn't satisfied with himself. I mean, after all, Tall Red Tree was red and brown with green leaves, and Wide Gray Tree was gray and brown with green leaves, and Python was olive green, and he had a little bit of black in him, and if the sun would catch him just right, he had some more colors too. And Baboon, see, Baboon was pretty satisfied with himself. Baboon was just Baboon. But Zebra wanted to have black stripes. But now how could he get those black stripes? How? Well, he thought all day. He thought all night. He thought and he thought and he thought. Until finally, it came to him. It came to him when he remembered what Anansi had said. Someday, I'll help you, friend. Zebra knew just what to do. He snatched up Anansi and tied him to a limb that was dangling over the river. He was hoping that Crocodile would come along, reach up for Nancy, lose his footing, and then slip down, 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 down into the water. And Zebra would be right there submerged under that water. And then Crocodile's big old stinky feet would tag Zebra on his left shank and tag Zebra on his right shank. Now, these wouldn't be real zebra stripes or permanent stripes because mud isn't permanent. But he could fool some of his friends for a while until it rained. Well, when Nancy heard that, he started screaming, "Help! Help! I don't want to help!" cried Nancy. Well, when Crocodile heard Nancy screaming and yelling, he jumped out of that river, jumped up on the bank, but then he slipped back down into the mud. Down, down, down into the river. And there was Zebra, just like he said he would be. He was submerged in that water. And Zebra was down, 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 and Crocodile's big old stinky feet, they tagged Zebra on his left shank. And they tagged Zebra on his right shank. And he was just a twisting and a turning, a twisting and a turning, a twisting and a turning, getting stripes all over himself. Then he heard thunder. And he looked up and he saw lightning. And he knew that the rain was coming. So he galloped. He galloped up out of that water, dragging little Nancy behind him, and there they went into the mouth of a cave. And that's where Zebra stayed for 2 whole days and 2 whole nights. And then he thought about it. I mean, at least he had been a zebra for 2 whole days with stripes. So he saw the rain. And he saw the sun. And so he stepped out of that cave. And he spoke to the rain. And he spoke to the sun. And he said, "Rain, if you would wash my beautiful white stripes, and sun, if you would dry my beautiful black stripes, I'll tell everyone how both of you made me more beautiful than I was before." And the rain liked that. And the sun agreed. And the rain washed his beautiful white stripes a brilliant white. And the sun dried his beautiful black stripes, slick and smooth. And without even knowing it, Nancy had done something for someone other than himself. And that, my friends, is how Zebra got his stripes. The end.
Bravo. And that's a true story. Bravo.
Okay,
what I do is I do some trick roping and cowboy poetry. I'm a cowboy poet. And it's really just kind of telling stories and just having fun with an audience. And I learned my trick roping from Will Rogers Jr. out in California, the son of the great Will Rogers. And that's kind of what I do. And the importance, I always say, of storytelling or poetry is if you get mad at something or you're hurt by something, write it down. If you write it down and put it into verse and come back and read it later, actually those things that really kind of made you uptight and to feel bad, well, you'll actually laugh at some of those things and you'll find out it's not that important. Well, it's really needed in today's world because we don't socialize much. We're all on our phones, including me, and Facebook and whatever, and playing games on the computer. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's a time where you can get into a book and feel a book. And open it up, and you just become part of the story, and you just involve into that book and the story. And that's the fun thing about reading, and that's how you can escape through reading. And that's why I love what they're doing here at the library and getting kids and adults again wanting to read again. Because everybody, I don't care who you are, and some people might say, well, I don't have a story. You might have a movie in you as far as what has happened to you in your life. Everybody is important. No matter who you are, everyone has a story. And tell your story. It can be a little bitty story, or eventually it might be a full-length motion picture.
Well, hi, I'm Sandy Silver.
And I'm Toodles. I'm the star. Twinkle, twinkle.
Thank you, Toodles. And we're here at this wonderful, wonderful library event.
Because reading is awesome.
We miss out on so much if we don't read.
I know. You can read a book and do anything and go everywhere.
That's really true. And it's important that we support our libraries.
And you take good care of your books. It's really important to take good care of your books.
So that's what we do, and we're really honored to be here as part of this library inaugural festival.
So, is it rolling? Is it still rolling?
I think so. Well, when I was a little kid, storytelling was grim fairy tales.
And they were really grim.
They were very scary. And when I discovered storytelling as almost a senior adult, I was absolutely blown away.
She even fell over.
I was absolutely blown away at where children's stories have evolved to, and children's music.
And storytelling for grown-ups, too. We do that.
And it keeps your imagination going. Reading not only is entertaining, but it keeps our brains extremely active.
And it's neat to tell stories.
A lot of times people in our families don't even know much about us, especially cousins and aunts and uncles and grandchildren.
They really need to know the stories in the family from the horse's mouth.
So that's true, and I encourage everybody. You don't have to be professional to tell stories. And if you think of something that you remember, write it down. It doesn't have to be a big production, and go back to it.
And embellish it if you want. Storytellers do that.
And just keep reading and take good care of those books.
Thank you.
folks doing today? Commissioner Wisnat Trace. I'm the commissioner of District 1 where the Rocky Bluff Library is, and I am so happy to be here today at this first ever storytelling. And let me tell you, my family has been here since the 1880s. And when growing up, in a time where there was very little TV, very little books, my family made a lot of stories and told a lot of stories. And that's a tradition that I think needs to be carried on. And being here all my life, it's important that we learn, that we continue, and that we carry all these traditions along. This is a tremendous library. Everyone needs to know how to read because we can go wherever we want by opening a book. So come on, folks, let's get out, have a good time, enjoy this. If you can't come this year, they say they're going to do it every year. Storytelling. Like I said, my family has been here a very, very long time. My folks pretty much cleared all the land around here. We used to farm, so I know why it was Rocky Bluff, because there's a lot of rocks underneath them. And right where we're standing today used to be a fuller's earth mine. In World War I and World War II, that's one of the ingredients they needed to use dynamite. It used to be a very, very large pier right out into the river, just maybe half a quarter of a mile away from right here. So these are a lot of facts and things that you can learn from books and the reading and the history. But I found out from my storytellers in my family just telling me the times that they would come up here, and there used to be actually an earth mine here, and we would always, when we went by and I saw the old building that was still standing until they built the new library, or excuse me, not the new library, the new post office. So get out, read, people. You can learn a lot.
My name is Karen Romont. I am the MC of the first annual Storytelling Festival here at the Rocky Bluff Library in Ellenton, Florida. I am so pleased to be a part of this event because we all believe in literacy. We all believe in and know that learning to read is urgently important for children, but we also believe, those of us who are here and those of you who may be watching this, that storytelling is the way that we discover our common humanity. We figure out that maybe this person all the way across the world who's telling this story is a lot like us. And we laugh, we cry, we discover wonderful things about our world and the people in it when we listen to stories. That's why I'm a part of this Storytelling Festival, and I am so glad to be here to introduce all the storytellers in our area. I am part of Parish Playworks. Parish Playworks is a local theater group, and we tell stories about Manatee County, what it was like to be here back in the old days, what it was like to be a kid growing up. We're doing a story at 1:30 today, and it's called Stories Your Mama Never Told You. And it's great fun. If you don't have a chance to see it today, we hope that you'll get in touch with Parish Playworks by looking at our website, 3ws.parishplayworks.org, or look for us on Facebook. We're doing a show in November, so you're going to want to see about that. And remember, this is the first annual Storytelling Festival, so come back, come to the library even before that, but there'll be another Storytelling Festival next year. Thanks.
here at the Rocky Bluff Library Storytellers Festival. We're having a great time. What did you get, Elizabeth?
I got a balloon mouse.
What else? What did you get? What else did you get?
Popcorn.
We listened to some stories.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. There was one author that was here. He actually lives here in Parrish, and he was telling his stories and showing us his books. They're fantastic. We love hearing stories. We love going to hear stories anywhere we can. So this has been a great opportunity for us.
I like going to the library.
Do you like going to the library, or do you love going to the library?
I love going to the library.
How often do we go to the library?
A lot.
Where do you go when you go to the library? Do you go and you hang out with the adult section with mommy and daddy, or do you have someplace else you go?
I go to the kids section. Crash, Thunder, Boom.
Crash, Thunder, Boom. Wow. That's a great book. Are you sure it's not 1, 2, 3, O'Leary? No, Crash, Thunder, Boom it is. All right. Well, if you haven't having fun, have you seen some of your friends here?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's been a lot of fun too, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hi, my name is Doris Pope, and I am president of the Friends of Rocky Bluff Library. Rocky Bluff Library is an amazing little library in Ellington, Florida, and we are very pleased to be the supporting unit for all of its programs and activities. One of the things that we have done is a storytelling festival. Before I get to that, I want to tell you a little bit about the Friends group, because we have 15 very dedicated board members who provide all of the activities and the funding that goes on within the library. So we're very pleased to have that supportive group. They've been in business with this library for 22 years. And so it's an amazing chain that they've carried on. And so we're very pleased to be part of this community and be able to help the community. And that's one of the things about libraries. People say, why do we need books? Well, we need libraries because they are free. Libraries also support our community in a lot of ways by bringing people in for reading if you want to come read. We have events that like creative aging, so that senior citizens can come in and learn how to do a lot of things like painting in the Japanese style. Have you ever thought about doing that? It's really a lot of fun. We also have children's activities. We support the children's reading programs through the summer. And we also make sure that with everything that we do, everyone feels like they're welcome. And so that's our mantra. Be friendly, make people welcome to the libraries, because the more you use the library, the better off we all are. And so back to why we're here today. This is our first annual storytelling festival, and we're very pleased to be able to do this for our community. The people that we've gathered here today are all professional storytellers, and what they do is they bring to us the stories that they are familiar with and include us in their lives. Our aim with this storytelling festival is to turn it into an event that children and adults from our community will appreciate. And one of the ways that we're going to be doing this is we're getting the schools involved in helping kids learn how to tell stories. And we're going to have drama coaches here at the library to teach them how to tell their stories. So the next one, the second annual, we're going to have our own people doing it as well as professionals. So we're really excited about this event. We're excited, and we hope that if you missed it this year, that you'll make sure you come next year. Thank you all so very much. Hope to see you here.